Hey friends, it's Laurie. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today, I'm making a lighted haunted house using Dollar Tree supplies. These are the colors that I chose for my haunted house, but you can always change them up to match your personal preference. Getting started, I'm using 2 of the Dollar Tree wooden houses, and I found these in the Halloween department. I'm then using my Dollar Tree black acrylic paint, and I'm giving all 4 sides a coat. I had so much fun making this project because usually I'm trying to make everything perfect, and this time around it was like, if I missed a little paint here and there or things didn't match up, it just kind of lended to the haunted part of the house. I'm using some of the small Dollar Tree craft sticks, and these will become my shutters. I'm placing a stick against one of the windows. I'm marking it and then cutting it to size. When I was done, I then cut my stick in half to make my 2 shutters. From there, I just continued measuring my craft stick against each of the windows, then cutting it down the center to make 2 shutters. And when I was done, I had a set of shutters for both the front and the back of my house. And don't worry if they're not perfect, because that just adds another layer of creepiness to your house. When I was done with each set, I then used my gray acrylic paint and I gave them all a coat. When they were dry, I then used my Aleene's tacky glue, and you can find this at the Dollar Tree, and I attached each one of them into place. While I was adding them, I wasn't super fussy. I didn't make sure they were perfectly straight or had even spacing, and I think that by doing that, it kind of gives the house more of a Halloween vibe. Once I had them all glued into place and they were dry, I'm then using my pencil, and I'm going to draw on some of the louvers or slats that you usually see on a shutter. I just added my lines randomly here and there, and I didn't make them that dark, but if you want, you could always use a marker, and if you go with a paintbrush, you could even paint some on. I wanted to share with you today that I'm participating in Sunday Funday, and it's being hosted by my dear friends Janny and Dyanne from Deco and my favorite cousins Trish and Kay from Crafting Cousins. They have amazing DIY channels that I will link below, along with the Sunday Funday playlist. To add a little glitter to my windows, I'm going to use some of this Dollar Tree Gold sparkly tulle. I'm cutting small pieces that will cover the window, and using my Mod Podge, I'm then attaching them to the inside of the house. Using my paintbrush, I added some Mod Podge around the window, then placed on my piece of tulle, making sure it was over the window and the edges were in the glue. Then I used another coat of the Mod Podge to hold the tulle in place. I continued doing this to all of my windows, and during the day when the lights in the house aren't on, it does give the windows a little bit of a sparkle, but once again, this step is completely optional. Now that all my windows are covered in sparkly tulle, I'm using some of this leftover Dollar Tree Halloween ribbon that I used in my last project. You can always come back after you check out the playlist, and I'll have that video linked below. To add in the spooky factor, I'm deciding what part of the ribbon I want to show through the window. Then, like the tulle, I'm cutting a large enough piece with an overhang, and because this is a wired ribbon, I'm cutting off the edges. And once again, like the tulle, I added my Mod Podge around the window. I then attached my ribbon, adjusting it to how I wanted it to show on the outside. I then followed up with another coat of Mod Podge to hold it in place. I tried to add the different scenes from the ribbon to the windows, and then I just continued working my way around until all of them were covered. Once you're finished and you hold it up, you can then see the light, how it will shine through the windows on your haunted house. To connect the two pieces of my house together, I'm going to use 4 of these ghost boxes that I found at the Dollar Tree, and the backs of them just slide right off. I'm also using a bunch of the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree, so you'll need a large package of these. To put my house together, I'm using 2 ghost boxes on each side, and I'm sliding off the backs on all 4 of them. Because my side boxes aren't tall enough, I'm using some of the tumbling tower blocks to build them up. I'm gluing 4 of the tumbling blocks side to side, and then I'm adding 4 more blocks on the top. So when I'm done, I'll have one section with 8 tumbling blocks each. To glue the blocks together, I'm using my Starbond medium thick glue, and I have to tell you, it sets up super fast, and it's definitely my go-to glue for all my unpainted wood projects. If you'd like to try it out, I have the company linked below along with a discount coupon code. I continued gluing the blocks together until I had 6 separate sections. To add them all together, I'm using 2 of the ghost boxes and 3 of my wooden stacks. Then once again, using my Starbond glue, I'm placing some on one of the wooden stacks and then adding my ghost box. I'm then adding some more glue and stacking my next 2 blocks. To finish up, I add more glue and the last ghost box on the top. I now have both sides of my house ready, and using some of the Dollar Tree black acrylic paint, I'm going to paint everything but the ghosts. When my black paint has completely dried, I'm then going to use some of my white acrylic paint and paint each side of each ghost. I'm making 2 steps for each side of the house along with 4 riser blocks. So once again, I'm using that same black Dollar Tree acrylic paint, and I'm painting 8 more of my tumbling tower blocks. I finally have all my pieces ready and I can put the house together. Using my glue gun, I'm attaching one of the riser blocks onto the bottom of my ghost tower about halfway in the center. And once I'm done, I'm then following the exact same instructions for my other ghost tower. To add the front of the house, I'm adding some hot glue to the inside edge of the tower. I'm then resting the house on the riser and pushing it against the tower, making sure that I'm not covering any of the windows. When I'm done, I'm then following the exact same instructions for the other side. Now that my house is all put together, I'm going to be adding on a roof, and I'm using the same thin craft sticks that I used for the shutters. To attach them, I'm placing some hot glue on the very top and then just adding on my stick. I just continued on adding the hot glue and placing on the sticks, and I did make sure they were as straight as I could make them and as even, so whatever was overhanging on the left side, I had basically overhanging on the right. As I'm attaching the sticks, I'm just following along the lines of the roof, and when I come to the end of the house, you can see how the top of the tower is now flush with the top of the roof. While you're adding them on, don't be super fussy. If your sticks don't match up tightly with each other and there's some gaps and holes, don't even worry about it, because when you're done, you won't even notice. When I finally glued on that last craft stick to the top, I ended up with this really pretty roof on my house. I'm once again using my black acrylic paint and I'm giving the roof a quick coat. With that complete, I'm using my pencil and I'm just kind of tracing along the lines of the house to give it a light accent on the edges. To add on the stairs, I'm using 2 of the painted blocks and I'm placing a line of hot glue on the edge of one and then offsetting the second so that it looks like steps. I then added some hot glue to the back and attached them to the door. And once the front was done, I then made a second set and attached those to the back. With the hard work done, here comes the fun part, decorating the house. I used 2 of the fall Dollar Tree berries. I cut off the stem and I drew a little jack-o'-lantern on the front. I then used one of these bats from the Dollar Tree and I attached that to the top of the house. I'm adding a few things from my stash, but the little witch's feet are from the Dollar Tree along with some of these stickers. I added a trick-or-treat sign onto the front door and I think this house fell onto a witch because all I see is her feet sticking out from underneath. I then added on some scary ghosts and some of those Dollar Tree bat stickers. And what's a haunted house without a witch? So I added her onto the top. I added on 2 more accents and then I used some spider web that I had on hand and draped it over the side of the roof. I then added on some Dollar Tree spiders and I cut the backs off of the spider rings. I added a few extra spiders to the roof and when I was done, my haunted house was complete. To make a base for my house, I'm using one of the brownie pans from the Dollar Tree and I'm turning it upside down. I placed my haunted house on top and I'm adding some Spanish moss that I had on hand onto the sides. I just added on some hot glue here and there and then attached the moss to the pan. When I was done, my house was completely surrounded in moss. To light up my house, I added a string of fairy lights and Dollar Tree has a bunch of different colors and styles that you can add. I turned mine on and then I tucked them up inside the house. I added an old fence around the house that I had on hand along with a Dollar Tree skeleton, and with that, my Halloween haunted house is complete. Thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed making this Halloween haunted house. And if you're new and you haven't yet subscribed and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. I'll see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.